Good morning, everybody. Normally, I like to speak to a room full of people, okay? Right? So I presume, the movie Matrix is a very interesting movie. Those of you who kind of know that movie, it's about, living in a world which is controlled by kind of computers. And the hero in that movie suddenly realizes that, or is made to realize that, and gets out and tries to kind of fix that problem, so to speak. Okay, and so in many ways it's like Maya, right? We all live in an illusionary kind of a world. So I think there's some kind of similarity, and we all try to get out of the Maya and fix that kind of problem. So what I'm trying to do is, and actually I wish there was time travel possible today, Pari, not 10, 20 years from now. The reason is I wished I could go before George's speech, because George pretty much stole all my points, okay? So if time travel was possible, what is that thing you said, some transportation, okay? So if that is possible, I could have spoken first and then George would have to say this. Unfortunately, that's not possible today. So just wanted to set a little bit of context as to what Broadridge is about so that you have an idea as to what I'm going to talk about. Unlike a lot of people in this room and a lot of people who have spoken, we are not a product engineering firm. Okay, we don't build engineering products. Actually, we are kind of consumers of those products. And in that sense, that my perspective here is about how to use all of that to build some kind of big data capability. And that's what Pari wanted me to kind of talk about. As the slide very nicely says, we like to think that we are the most important firm on Wall Street that you have not heard about. So that problem got fixed because you've heard about Broadridge now, okay? Broadridge, actually we work in two segments. One is what we call as investor communication services. So if you are a corporate issuer or a bank broker dealer, pretty much you use our system for communicating with your investors, okay? And it's a pretty good place to be in. And the reason why I say that is we have a captive database of 130 million US shareholders, okay, and billions of proxies done every year. So it's very nice when you want to talk of data and big data when you're sitting on actual data, okay, and you could use that. Right? The second thing which we essentially do is we are in what we call the securities processing space. For example, on a good day, 25% of New York Stock Exchange volumes get traded through our systems. For the US fixed income market, 8 or 9 of the broker dealers use our systems. $5 trillion worth of securities get traded on our system every day. Okay, it's probably bigger than the GDP of India getting traded on our systems every day. Okay, pardon me? 2x the India's GDP. Yeah. So it gets traded on our systems every day. Okay, so no wonder I think rightfully so we have our place in the sun, so to speak, there. I just wanted to give a context to the kind of data we are sitting on. Okay, if you look at it, we process about 15 billion plus investor communications for the last 10 years. Okay, we process about 60 billion shares in 2013 alone. I talked a little bit about some of the fixed income portions. Two things I really wanted to kind of say is we have been in the SaaS business since 1962. Okay. Luckily or unluckily, when the company started, somebody had the vision to write a multi-client kind of a software, okay? And in those days, it was called EDP, Electronic Data Processing. It was hosted in a mainframe center, and we had multiple clients on it. So we like to think that we are one of the early proponents of the SaaS kind of a business model. If you look at the kind of data that we are sitting on and we process, we got 200 petabytes of data under management, 15K plus distributed systems, 25K of mainframe MIPS that we use. Okay, we have a combination of mainframe and legacy, mainframe and new technology that we kind of process. So this is to give you a context as to know where Broadridge is and where do we come from, in the sense that we sit on a lot of data. And what I try to do in the next maybe 5-10 minutes is try to explain how we put a system here in India to be able to provide a big data analytics team out to be able to harness this data and generate tangible revenue for the company. That's essentially what I'm going to try to do. So obviously, I took the liberty of changing the title of the talk. I'm saying it's no longer data, it's probably a big data-driven world. So I've changed the title of the talk. And I want to talk of our journey as to what are the 4 steps that we took to solve the big data problem. So clearly, once we had the data, we figured this is what we need to do. And this was essentially step 1. Right? So like most of us, we knew we had data, and then everybody talked about it, but we clearly had no idea what we were going to do with it. So that is essentially kind of step 1 in our process. Step 2, once we took a step back and tried to figure out as to what we needed to do, obviously there was a framework which is always available to think about big data. If you look at it, there were the 4 Ws which came from the Meta group in 2000, and later IBM added the veracity component. And clearly, as you see, there's more data, veracity is inversely proportional to volume, velocity, and variety. That's something we kind of realized. Okay. And so if you look at what we wanted to do, we said step 1, we need to create a data warehouse, considering the fact that we had multiple systems, multiple data sources, multiple places where we had access to data. We really wanted to create a kind of a data warehouse kind of situation for us. So what we essentially did is, I have all the data and but I'm not going to get into the specifics. For example, we have 3 terabytes of data for the last 7 years for our shareholder database. Okay, and if you really have to do some trend analysis, you need to have all the data pretty much handy. So we invested in pretty much, you name the big data technology. Greenplum was our preferred choice out here. So essentially what the idea of phase 1 was essentially to put together a data warehouse so that we could do some business intelligence and basic reporting on this. Okay. At that point in time, we never really thought about how we were going to do analytics. We came with a 2-pronged strategy out here. If you look at what Broadridge did, is we said we have a historical amount of data which we need to mine to get actionable intelligence. At the same time, all the new acquisitions that we did essentially started to use this particular data. So essentially we had a 2-pronged strategy. One was an acquisition strategy, which allowed us to kind of use our existing data warehouse kind of products and build new products around it. Those acquisitions alone today in the last 4 or 5 years generate pretty much 50 million revenue for us from an analytics kind of a space. The second part was about using this particular data to come up with actionable intelligence. So it was kind of a 2-pronged kind of a strategy. So what really happened once we had data, we wanted to do analytics. This was what the situation was. So when we talked to our boss, he was saying, yes, I'm impressed as to how we were able to put all your data together, but where's my pizza? Okay. So as always, as any business user, they want actionable intelligence, and where's the revenue coming from it? We really had a big data warehouse, we had spent a lot of money on it, but no actionable intelligence coming out of it. So we had to try and solve the big data pizza problem. And that's when we did a little bit of research, and we figured out that while the industry spends about 80% on Hadoop and Hadoop related technologies, the output is pretty much on just 20% is what you get out of it. So it's probably an 80-20 rule from an analytics kind of a perspective. So the second step we said is, technology is not really good enough. We really need to invest in a data science kind of a practice. And this is where what we essentially did is we built a center of excellence for data science in India. We had a number of our associates kind of get trained on pretty much, you name the statistical kind of techniques. Okay, there's an institute called INSOFI in Hyderabad. They closely work with the CMU, and there's a certification program. I think it's about a 20-week kind of a program. And the kind of practitioners we put here was not, just a pure data science guy off the street. It was essentially people who were in the system, 8-10 years, technology associates who can understand the system, who got trained on the data science. That was the first step in our evolution, which is we said we need to train our technology guys on data science. Number of things along with that which we essentially did was we built a program of innovation and collaboration which allowed people to kind of work together to build data models for our existing kind of products. One important thing here is we very early on realized that while the data science is important, getting the visualization part is extremely important. Because if you're not able to represent an Excel spreadsheet visually, I think then there's a challenge getting people in this room to agree on some conclusion, so to speak. So we've had a number of instances where obviously a picture is worth a 1,000 figures or 1,000 words, where we had huge success with this. One point I think I just really wanted to make at this point in time about, we have lots of tools in the market today for analytics and statistical modeling. And I think, this is doing to the industry today what Microsoft Excel did to the industry 15 years back. So when Excel was launched maybe 20 years back, it actually revolutionized the finance department. Okay, the finance department suddenly could become very independent, and they could essentially, they need not depend on the EDP department or the IT department for their reporting. So Excel kind of transformed the way, I would say, in a way the industry kind of worked. And I believe today the analytical tools are going to transform the way the IT developer kind of works, because he's going to have power on his kind of desktop, so to speak. And I believe that this is a no-win game, which is today, if somebody could write an R program, it took them maybe 2 weeks. 2 years back, it's probably 3 days now, okay, or something like that. So I think it's coming down exponentially, the learning curve on data science and the amount of libraries available. So I believe that over a period of time, there will be a lot of one or tools which will get kind of standardized, and there will be niche tools. So as we invested in the data science and analytics kind of practice, this is what really happened. So I think this is one of the challenges with just having a pure data science kind of a team who doesn't have really either the technology or the business knowledge. Okay, and this is, I think, a word of advice is that when you're starting to put your data science team, try to put people in the room who can understand the technology and the business. Okay, if you don't, you'll probably get into a situation like this. Okay, and as we looked around and did some digging around in the industry, we figured that any analytics projects, 55% of them have failed, primarily because of the context, or the lack of understanding of the context. Okay, so this is what we were probably about maybe 3 years back or 2 years back. We said we have a wheel, we have the axle, all we need now is a great synthetic mind to put it together. Okay, and this is when we put together what we call as a micro decisioning kind of a practice. Okay, the micro decisioning essentially brings the data science, the technology, and the businesses together, and I think it's a very important component in building up a big data practice. So if there's one thing you wish to take away from today from my presentation, I would say that the micro decisioning is going to be the key, and I think George talked a little bit about that. So what we essentially did is in the last probably 3-4 years alone, or maybe 3 years, we have invested about $2 million in developing 15 specific subject matter experts. Okay, one of the good things or good fortunes for us is we have a service or a product plus service, which means that we eat our own cooking. So in many ways we can provide the client experience to our associates without really having to leave our building, so to speak. Okay, but what we did is every year for the last 3 years we have launched a program called Subject Matter Expert Program, where we second about 5 to 6 associates to the US. They're all technology associates. They work on our ops floor, okay, to understand how our product is kind of used. So once they come back, their knowledge of the business is immense. Okay, so this is one of the key investments we did in building up our data science kind of a practice. So you have a technology guy who understands data science, who's now a business kind of, I wouldn't say an expert, but understands the business very well. So that helps the micro decisioning, which allows you to do analytics very well. So finally, just to kind of summarize, this is what we finally put together. If you look at it, we have a team of domain experts. We invested a lot in computational technology. There's a team of data scientists. and obviously putting the visualization together. That's the big data practice in Hyderabad. Two things I really wanted to say is we have two practices in Hyderabad totally run from here. One is the big data practice, the other is strategy support. Like I said, one of our parts of a big data strategy is to do acquisitions which can use our data today, and so we have a team which kind of provides for that. On the right hand side, you see some names, something like advisor, performance reporting, shareholder data insights. These are all actually actionable insights that have come out from this team, okay, which actually today generate revenue for Broadridge. Okay. For example, advisor performance reporting is in the US, in the wealth management side, you have advisors, so we can actually predict the kind of business an advisor would bring to the table, or the kind of deposits that an advisor could bring to the table. These are some of the actual insights that we really have generated. Okay. So this is essentially how we kind of build the whole practice together. Clearly, I would say micro decisioning was the key for us, okay, in building a successful kind of practice. So I decided once again to change the name of the topic. I don't believe that we're living in the big data world. We're getting into the big data world. And I think it's urgently important for us to kind of realize I think George talked a little bit about the ethics, etc. I want to talk of two things out here. One is the fact that the world is changing in that sense that today when we talk to our customers, in many ways the CEO or the CIO is no longer just the decision maker. We are starting to see the chief marketing officer also starting to be a key part of the decision making process. Okay, so that is something I think we need to really kind of think of. Second thing we have realized is as we generate a lot of data and we do a lot of analytics, there are a lot of spurious correlations, okay? And it's very easy to draw conclusions out of those spurious correlations, okay? The third thing I think is very important is if you really think of what big data is trying to do, it's trying to predict human behavior, okay? And it's a pretty dangerous game, if you're trying to predict human behavior. So I think when we're trying to design our big data systems, let's be aware of the fact that we're trying to predict human behavior, and let's do it properly. Before we get into the matrix, let's kind of see that we don't try to overdo it, okay, at the cost of. On a lighter note, I just wanted to say I've been talking about this big data for some time, even at home. And the other day, I was at the dinner table, and obviously I did something. And my wife said that, I knew you would do this. And I said, how? And she said, I've been married to you 25 years. I have 5 senses. I pick big data from you every day. Okay. I know you're going to do this. Okay. So there's big data people practicing outside this industry too, just to. So can anybody guess what is Q&I? Pardon me? Questions then? I mean, it's a big data presentation. There are no answers. There are only insights, right? Okay. So questions and insights, I'm open for questions, but rather what I will do is, I think we're running out of time a little bit. So I will in turn ask you a question, and then maybe during the break you could give me the answer. And maybe if you have any other questions, and I'll try to give insights hopefully down later. Guys know who's on the right? Anybody seen that image before? Pari, right? And what's on the left? Data. That's the data, okay? And so the question is, what is this? And you need to come back to me with the insight on this one. And just for the people who really can't see the back, the guy at the top is Pari again. Okay? That's Pari's face. Okay? Pardon me? Yeah, that's the easy one. But I think, see, remember this is a big data presentation, and I gave you the clue in the previous page. So, send this data to Pari's wife. On a light note, one inference, one big data inference is Pari likes women with long hair. That could be one inference, okay? Okay. But the clue is in the previous slide, and I'm happy to take,
You have to give us the answer yet,
So if you really look at, it's what I was trying to actually show is you could always get spurious correlations from your data. The whole thing. The answer is very simple. Actually, if you really look at it, the early slide with the agenda, you had all the movie names, okay? And this was the only animated movie in the whole thing. So I figured that, that being the only animated movie, I drew the conclusion that Pari likes Rapunzel. So that was the conclusion, okay? Thank you very much. Truly appreciate it.